Admiral Tae-ho Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, watching the massive alien ship grow larger on the main screen. The vessel was at least 10 times bigger than his own ship. Its dark metal surface was covered with strange markings and weapon ports that looked like they could destroy a moon. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Federation, and Tae-ho knew that everything humanity said and did today would shape their future among the stars. "Sir, we're getting a communication signal," reported Lieutenant Hae-won Park from her station. "They want us to follow them to the Federation flagship." Tae-ho nodded. "Tell them we understand. Take us in slowly." The Harmony moved toward the alien fleet. There were dozens of ships out there, each one different from the others. Some looked like giant insects made of metal. Others were smooth and curved like giant eggs. A few had long spikes sticking out in all directions. Tae-ho had seen pictures of these ships before in the secret files, but seeing them in person was different. They looked powerful and dangerous. Captain Ji-woo Park, humanity's diplomatic liaison, walked onto the bridge. She wore the formal blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her face was calm, but Tae-ho could see the worry in her eyes. "Are you ready for this?" Tae-ho asked her. "As ready as anyone can be for meeting aliens who think we're primitive," Ji-woo replied. "Just remember the plan. We show them only what they expect to see, nothing more." The Harmony docked with the Federation flagship. The alien ship was so big that the human vessel looked like a small boat next to a cruise ship. Tae-ho watched on his screens as Ji-woo and the diplomatic team walked through the airlock. He wished he could go with them, but his orders were clear. Stay with the ship and keep up the act. Inside the Federation flagship, Ji-woo followed an alien escort down long corridors. The escort was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. It didn't speak to her, just walked ahead making soft clicking sounds. The walls around them were covered with symbols that hurt to look at. The air smelled like metal and something sweet that made her nose itch. They entered a huge room with a high ceiling. At the center was a raised platform where several aliens sat on throne-like chairs. The one in the middle was clearly the leader. It was large and covered in dark scales, with yellow eyes that looked at Ji-woo like she was an interesting bug. "Welcome, human," the scaled alien said. Its voice was deep and sounded bored. "I am Chancellor Vextar of the Drakmari Empire. We speak for the Galactic Federation in this sector." Ji-woo bowed politely. "Thank you for meeting with us, Chancellor. I am Captain Ji-woo Park, representing Earth and humanity." Chancellor Vextar leaned back in his chair. "Yes, we know who you are. We've been watching your little planet for some time now. Very amusing, really. You've barely learned to leave your own star system, and already you think you're ready to join the galaxy's great civilizations." Other aliens in the room made sounds that might have been laughter. Ji-woo kept her face neutral, but inside she was angry. These creatures had no idea what humanity was really capable of. "We hope to learn from the more experienced races," Ji-woo said carefully. "Earth seeks peaceful cooperation with all species." "Peaceful cooperation," repeated another alien. This one looked like a giant insect with multiple eyes. "How refreshing. Most new species come to us demanding equal treatment, as if they have earned such a thing." Fleet Commander Zulmek, a massive alien with thick armor covering his body, leaned forward. "Your species interests us, human. We have observed your military. 12 ships, was it? All using chemical propulsion? How quaint." Ji-woo nodded. "We are still developing our space capabilities." "Indeed," Chancellor Vextar said. "Which brings us to why you are here. The Federation has a place for species like yours. You will be granted associate membership status. This means you will follow Federation law and contribute to Federation projects." "What kind of projects?" Ji-woo asked. The insect-like alien answered. "Mining operations, mostly. Your people are small and can fit into tight spaces. Very useful for asteroid mining in dangerous sectors. The work is hard, but you will be protected by Federation forces. In exchange," Fleet Commander Zulmek added, "you will receive Federation technology and protection. Your 12 little ships would not last long against the real dangers of the galaxy." Ji-woo felt her heart beating faster. This was exactly what Earth's leaders had expected. The Federation didn't want partners. They wanted slaves with spaceships. This is a generous offer, Chancellor Vextar continued. Many species would be grateful for such an opportunity. Of course, if you refuse, well, he made a gesture with his clawed hand. The galaxy can be a dangerous place for species that try to go it alone. What exactly are you saying, Chancellor? Jiwoo asked. Fleet Commander Zulmek stood up. Even sitting down, he had been huge. Standing, he looked like he could crush a human with his bare hands. We are saying that cooperation is not optional. Species that refuse Federation guidance often suffer unfortunate accidents. Space pirates, system failures, asteroid impacts, such tragedies. The threat was clear. Jiwoo took a deep breath. I will need to discuss this with Earth's government. Of course, Chancellor Vextar said, sounding bored again. You have one standard cycle to decide. That is approximately 30 of your Earth days. If you do not accept by then, we will assume you have chosen the difficult path. Another alien, this one covered in what looked like fur, spoke up. Perhaps a demonstration would help them understand their situation. An excellent idea, Fleet Commander Zulmek said. He turned to Jiwoo. We will escort you back to your home system. Along the way, we will show you what happens to species that make poor choices. Jiwoo was led back to the docking bay. The escort alien was just as silent as before, but now its clicking sound seemed faster, more excited. As she walked through the corridors, Jiwoo saw other aliens watching her. Some looked curious, others looked hungry. Back on the Harmony, Admiral Taeho was waiting for her report. How did it go? Exactly as we expected, Jiwoo said. They think we're primitive and weak. They want us to be their mining slaves, and they're threatening us if we refuse. And the fleet assessment? They mentioned 12 ships specifically. They have no idea about the real numbers. Taeho smiled grimly. Good. The deception is holding. What about their capabilities? Impressive, but not beyond what our intelligence reports suggested. Their weapons are powerful but slow to target. Their ships are big but not very fast, and they're overconfident. That overconfidence will be their downfall, Taeho said. The human ships began their journey back to Earth, escorted by a Federation fleet of 20 vessels. Along the way, Fleet Commander Zulmek made good on his promise to demonstrate Federation power. They stopped at a small planet inhabited by a species that had recently refused Federation membership. The planet's surface was covered with the remains of cities. Nothing moved down there. Nothing lived. They chose poorly, Fleet Commander Zulmek told Jiwoo over the communication channel. Your species is smarter, yes? You will not make the same mistake. Jiwoo watched the dead world on her screen and felt sick. But she also felt something else. Anger. These aliens thought they could threaten humanity the same way. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The journey to Earth took several days. During that time, the Federation aliens made sure to show off their technology and weapons. They fired at asteroids, reducing them to dust. They demonstrated their shields by flying through debris fields without taking damage. They talked constantly about their military might and the thousands of ships under Federation command. Your primitive sensors cannot even detect all of our vessels, one alien captain boasted. We have ships using stealth technology your species will not develop for centuries. What the aliens didn't know was that human sensors were far more advanced than they appeared. Hidden scanners on the Harmony were recording everything. Every weapon signature, every shield frequency, every engine emission was being cataloged and analyzed. The data was being transmitted back to Earth using quantum communications that the aliens couldn't detect. On Earth, teams of scientists and military experts were already studying the alien technology, looking for weaknesses. They found many. When the Federation fleet finally reached Earth's solar system, Chancellor Vexitar himself joined the escort. His massive flagship moved into orbit around Earth's moon, and he demanded a meeting with Earth's leaders. Ambassador Hyun-Soo Lee met with the alien delegation on a space station orbiting Earth. The meeting was broadcast to every human settlement in the solar system. Billions of people watched as the aliens delivered their ultimatum. "Your answer, human," Chancellor Vextar demanded. "Will you accept Federation protection and contribute to Federation projects, or will you choose the path of destruction?" Ambassador Hyun Soo Lee stood calmly before the towering alien. "Earth appreciates the Federation's offer, but we must respectfully decline. We seek partnership, not subordination." The room fell silent. The aliens looked shocked. Fleet Commander Zulmek's eyes glowed with anger. "You refuse?" Chancellor Vextar's voice was dangerously quiet. "You would doom your entire species for the sake of pride? We would preserve our freedom for the sake of our children," Ambassador Lee replied. Fleet Commander Zulmek stepped forward. "So be it." President So Young-han walked through the corridors of the underground facility known as Deep Shield Command. The bunker was buried 3 kilometers beneath the Himalayan mountains, protected by layers of rock, metal, and energy shields. This was where Earth's real government met when the planet faced its greatest threats. The main command room was huge, with screens covering every wall. Dozens of military officers and government officials worked at stations throughout the space. In the center was a large table surrounded by chairs. This was where the United Earth Defense Council would decide humanity's fate. Fleet Admiral Dong-min Choi was already waiting when President Han arrived. The older man had gray hair and tired eyes, but his back was straight, and his uniform was perfect. He had spent 40 years preparing for this day. "Status report, Admiral," President Han said as she took her seat. "All hidden bases have confirmed receipt of activation codes. Fleet mobilization is proceeding ahead of schedule. Current operational readiness is at 60% and rising." Other council members began filing into the room. General Hai Rim Quan from the Space Marines, Director Min Ji-yu from Intelligence, and Secretary Wan-ho Jang from Colonial Affairs all took their places around the table. The last person to arrive was Dr. Yoon-ji Shin, head of the Advanced Weapons Division. She carried a data pad and looked excited despite the serious situation. Dr. Shin had been working on humanity's secret weapons for 20 years, and now she would finally see them used. "Before we begin," President Han said, "I want to remind everyone that what we discuss here will determine whether humanity remains free or becomes slaves to alien masters. The Federation thinks we're weak and primitive. Today we decide how wrong they are." Fleet Admiral Choi activated the main display screen. It showed a map of the solar system with small icons representing ships and bases. To anyone from the Federation, it would look empty except for a few ships near Earth, but the council members could see the truth. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Choi said, "let me show you what 50 years of secret preparation has accomplished." The screen changed. Suddenly, hundreds of new icons appeared throughout the solar system: shipyards in the asteroid belt, hidden bases on moons of Jupiter and Saturn, manufacturing facilities built inside hollowed-out asteroids. The entire outer solar system was filled with human military installations. "How many ships do we actually have?" President Han asked. Captain Min Ho-young from the Reconnaissance Division stood up. "As of this morning, we have 3,147 operational combat vessels of various classes. Another 600 ships will be ready within the week." The room was silent. Even the council members who had known about the secret fleet were impressed by the final numbers. "The Federation believes we have 12 ships," Captain Yang continued. "They have identified our patrol vessels and exploration ships as our entire military force. They have no idea about the combat fleet." "How did we keep this secret for so long?" Secretary Jung asked. Director Min Ji-yu answered, "Multiple programs running simultaneously. First, we've been using stealth technology the Federation can't detect. Our quantum hull coatings make our ships invisible to their sensors. Second, all construction has taken place in the outer system, far from normal shipping lanes. Third, we've maintained the illusion of a small fleet by using the same 12 ships for all official contact with alien observers." Dr. Yoon-ji Shin activated her datapad. "But the ships are only part of the story. We've also been developing weapons and defense systems based on technology we've observed from dozens of different alien species." The main screen showed technical Diagrams that made the council members lean forward with interest. Adaptive smart matter hulls that can change their properties in real time, Dr. Shin explained. Quantum torpedo systems that can phase through shields. Energy weapons that grow stronger as they absorb incoming fire. And something special we call the Dimensional Strike System. Dimensional Strike? President Han asked. We learned about parallel dimensions from studying crashed alien ships over the decades. Our weapons can now attack targets through folded spacetime. An enemy ship might think it's safe behind shields and armor, but our weapons hit it from a direction that doesn't exist in normal space. Colonel Sungwoo Kang from Strategic Deception had been quiet until now. He stood and walked to the display screen. The most important part of our preparation has been intelligence gathering, he said. For 50 years we've been watching the Federation. We know how they fight, what they fear, and where they're weak. The screen showed star maps with detailed information about alien military bases, fleet movements, and political structures. We have spy satellites in every major star system within 100 light-years. We've infiltrated their communication networks. We know about fleet movements before some of their own commanders do. When they come to Earth, we'll be ready for them in ways they can't imagine. President Han looked around the table. What about their threats to other species? We saw what they did to that planet. That's exactly why we fight, General Quan said. The Federation rules through fear and violence. They destroy entire worlds to send messages. If we surrender, we become part of their machine. If we fight and lose, they kill us. But if we fight and win, we change everything, President Han finished. Fleet Admiral Choi brought up a new display. It showed the predicted Federation attack formation based on their previous pacification campaigns. They'll bring about 200 ships in a standard intimidation pattern. Big, impressive vessels designed to scare us into surrendering. Their commanders will position themselves safely in the rear while their frontline ships do the actual fighting. How do we respond? President Han asked. We let them come, Admiral Choi said. We allow them to enter our solar system and take up attack positions. We even let them destroy a few of our pathetic defending ships to build their confidence. Then when they're fully committed to the attack, we show them what humanity can really do. Dr. Shin finished with a smile. Captain Yang pulled up reconnaissance data from the Federation escort ships. We've been studying their technology during their visit. Their weapons are powerful, but predictable. Their shields are strong but have specific frequency weaknesses. Their engines are fast but produce distinctive energy signatures we can track across star systems. Most importantly, Colonel Kang added, they're arrogant. They believe their own propaganda about being the superior races of the galaxy. They've never fought an enemy that was actually prepared for them. President Han stood and walked to the large window that looked out over the underground facility. Through the transparent aluminum, she could see thousands of people working at stations, preparing humanity's defense. There's something else we need to discuss, she said. What happens after we win? The room fell quiet. Everyone had been focused on the coming battle, but President Han was thinking beyond it. If we defeat this Federation fleet, they'll send more, Secretary Zhang said. And more after that. We'll be at war with most of the galaxy. Maybe, Director Out, you said. Or maybe we'll inspire other species to stand up to the Federation. Our intelligence suggests that many alien races hate Federation rule, but are too afraid to resist. That's the real victory we're fighting for, General Quan said. Not just Earth's freedom, but the freedom of every species the Federation has, conquered or threatened. Fleet Admiral Choi brought up a new star map. This one showed the locations of dozens of alien species throughout the local galactic region. We've identified 47 species that have been forced into Federation membership in the last century. Another 36 species that are currently being threatened with pacification if they don't submit. If we can show that the Federation can be beaten, we start a revolution, President Han said. Dr. Shin was excited now. We're not just building a fleet to defend Earth. We're building the foundation for a new kind of galactic civilization. One based on cooperation instead of conquest. First, we have to survive the next week, Colonel Kang reminded them. President Han returned to her seat. Very well. Admiral Choi, begin full fleet mobilization. All ships are to reach combat readiness within 72 hours. Dr. Shin, I want all our new weapon systems tested and ready. Colonel Kang, prepare psychological warfare broadcasts for Bauer. When the fighting begins. What kind of broadcasts? Colonel Kang asked. The Federation has spent centuries convincing the galaxy that resistance is hopeless, President Han said. When we defeat their fleet, every species in this galactic region needs to know about it. Let them see that the Federation can be beaten. General Tiao. Quan leaned forward. Are we going to take prisoners? We'll offer surrender to any Federation ship that requests it, President Han decided. But we'll also make it clear that anyone who participates in genocide and slavery should expect no mercy if they keep fighting. The meeting continued for several more hours as the Council planned every detail of humanity's defense. Ship deployment patterns, weapon targeting priorities, communication protocols, and post-battle procedures were all discussed and decided. As the meeting ended, President Han asked Admiral Choi to stay behind. Admiral, I need your honest assessment. Can we really win this? The old soldier was quiet for a moment. Madam President, I've been preparing for this fight since I was a young officer. I've studied. The Federation fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a swarm of metal predators. 200 ships of different sizes and designs spread out in attack formation. The largest vessels were over 3 kilometers long, covered in weapon ports and armor plating thick enough to stop nuclear missiles. The smaller ships darted around the giants like hunting dogs around their masters. Admiral Crixnell of the Hive Swarms stood in the command center of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. His insect-like body was encased in ceremonial armor, and his multiple eyes watched the tactical displays with satisfaction. This would be an easy victory. The humans had only 12 ships to defend their entire planet. Begin the advance, Admiral Crixnell ordered. His voice created clicking and buzzing sounds that his ship's computer translated for the other alien species in the fleet. Standard pacification pattern. We destroy their pathetic fleet first, then proceed to orbital bombardment of their major cities. Fleet Commander Zulmek's voice came through the communication system from his own massive ship. Remember, we need some humans alive for mining operations. Don't destroy all of their population centers. Of course, Admiral Crixnell replied. We'll leave enough alive to serve the Federation. The rest will be an example to other species who think they can defy us. The Federation fleet moved deeper into the solar system. Their sensors detected the 12 human ships exactly where expected, forming a defensive line near Earth's moon. The alien commanders laughed among themselves. The humans were making the same mistake as dozens of species before them. They were trying to fight a superior force with inferior numbers and technology. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Captain Eugene Lee watched the alien fleet approach. Her ship was one of the original 12 vessels that the Federation had observed during first contact. To alien sensors, it looked like a primitive vessel with basic weapons and simple hull plating. They had no idea what they were really facing. All stations report ready, Captain, her tactical officer reported. Adaptive hull systems are online. Quantum weapons are charged. Stealth fleet is in position. Remember, Captain Lee said to her, crew, we need to make this look convincing. Let them think they're winning until the moment we spring the trap. The Federation fleet reached optimal firing range and spread out into attack formation. Admiral Crixnell studied the 12 human ships on his display screen. They looked even more pathetic than he had expected. Crude hull designs, simple weapons, no proper shielding. This would be over quickly. All ships open fire, Admiral Crixnell commanded. Show these humans what happens to species that defy the Federation. The space around Earth's moon lit up with weapons fire. Hundreds of energy beams and particle blasts streamed from the Federation ships toward the human defenders. The alien commanders expected to see the human ships explode or surrender within seconds. Instead, something impossible happened. The energy beams hit the human ships and simply disappeared. The particle blasts struck their hulls and scattered harmlessly into space. The human vessels didn't just survive the massive attack. They didn't even seem damaged. What? Admiral Crixnell stared at his displays in confusion. Increase power. All weapons maximum intensity. The Federation fleet poured even more energy into their attack. The space around the human ships glowed like a small sun from the intensity of the weapons fire, but still the 12 human vessels floated undamaged in formation. On the UES Defiance, Captain Lee watched her tactical displays with satisfaction. The adaptive, smart matter hull was working perfectly. Every alien weapon that hit her ship was analyzed by quantum computers in microseconds. The hull then changed its molecular structure to deflect, absorb, or redirect that specific type of energy. They're using standard Federation weapon frequencies, her science officer reported. Nothing we haven't seen before. The hull is adapting faster than they can adjust their targeting. Good, Captain Lee said. Let them waste their energy for a few more minutes. Make sure they're fully committed to the attack before we respond. The Federation commanders were becoming frantic. Admiral Crixnell ordered his ships to try different weapon types, different energy frequencies, different targeting patterns. Nothing worked. The human ships absorbed every attack like they were made of some impossible material. How are they doing this? Fleet Commander Zulmek demanded over the communication channel. Their technology should be centuries behind ours. I don't know, Admiral Crixnell admitted. His confidence was rapidly turning into worry. But 12 ships can't hold out forever. Keep firing. What the aliens didn't realize was that the human ships weren't just defending themselves. They were learning. Every alien weapon that struck their hulls provided data about Federation technology. Computer systems throughout the small human fleet analyzed and cataloged every energy signature, every targeting system, every tactical pattern the Federation used. After 20 minutes of continuous bombardment, Captain Lee decided it was time for the next phase. All ships return fire, she ordered. Limited engagement. Make it look like we're struggling. The 12 human ships began firing back at the Federation fleet. Their weapons looked simple, basic energy beams and kinetic projectiles that any spacefaring civilization might develop. But these weapons had been specifically designed based on 50 years of studying alien technology. The first human shot struck a Federation cruiser. The alien ship's shields flared and held, but the captain reported damage to his weapon systems. More human shots followed, each one precisely targeted at specific vulnerable points that human intelligence had identified decades ago. They're hitting our weak spots, the cruiser captain reported. How do they know where to aim? Admiral Crixnell watched in growing alarm as the human return fire became more accurate and more effective. Federation ships that should have been invulnerable to primitive human weapons were taking real damage. Their shields were failing. Their weapon systems were going offline. Their engines were being disabled. Impossible, he whispered. These humans are using tactics we've never seen before. What Admiral Crixnell didn't understand was that humanity had been watching Federation military operations for decades. Every battle, every weapon test, every tactical exercise had been observed and analyzed by human spy satellites. The Federation's own arrogance had made them careless about security, never imagining that a primitive species might be capable of advanced surveillance. Commander Bo-Young Kim, aboard the UES Vigilance, watched her tactical display as Federation ships began to fall back from their forward positions. The alien commanders were realizing that this wasn't going to be the easy victory they had expected. They're starting to regroup, her tactical officer reported. Looks like they're preparing for a more serious attack. Perfect, Commander Kim said. Signal the fleet. Prepare for Phase 2. The Federation ships pulled back and formed a new attack formation. This time they approached more carefully, using coordinated fire patterns and advanced targeting systems. Admiral Crixnell had decided that the humans must have some kind of advanced defensive technology. But it couldn't be perfect. If the Federation used enough firepower, they could overwhelm any defense. All ships concentrated bombardment, Admiral Crixnell ordered. Focus all fire on the lead human vessel. We'll destroy them one at a time. 200 Federation ships turned their weapons on the UES Defiance. The amount of energy they poured into their attack was enormous, enough to destroy a small moon. The space around Captain Lee's ship became a blazing inferno of weapons fire. But something even more impossible happened. The Defiance didn't just survive the concentrated attack. It seemed to grow stronger. The ship's hull began to glow with absorbed energy, and when it fired back, its weapons were twice as powerful as before. Energy absorption and redirection systems working at maximum efficiency, Captain Lee's science officer reported. We're channeling their weapons fire directly into our own systems. The Defiance fired a single shot at the nearest Federation battleship. The energy beam was composed of the same power that the Federation fleet had just used to attack the human ship. The battleship's shields collapsed instantly, and the beam tore through its hull like paper. The massive alien vessel exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from Earth. The Federation fleet fell silent. For the first time in centuries, they had lost a capital ship to what they considered a primitive enemy. Retreat, Admiral Crixnall ordered. Pull back to safe distance. But as the Federation ships began to withdraw, Captain Lee gave the order that would change everything. All ships activate quantum communicators. Send the signal. Throughout the solar system, hidden human bases received the activation code they had been waiting for. On the dark side of the moon in the asteroid belt, among the rings of Saturn, and in the cold depths of the outer system, thousands of human warships began dropping their stealth fields. The Federation's sensors went crazy as ship after ship appeared on their displays. Sleek, advanced vessels that were clearly far beyond anything the aliens had seen before. Ships that made even the largest Federation battleships look small and primitive. Admiral Crixnall stared at his tactical display in horror. Where there had been 12 pathetic human ships, there were now thousands of advanced. Admiral Crixnall stared at the impossible sight on his tactical displays. The space around Earth was filled with human warships. Thousands of them, all appearing as if from nowhere. His fleet of 200 vessels, which had seemed overwhelming just minutes ago, now looked pathetically small in comparison. Signal from the human fleet, his communications officer reported with a trembling voice. They're requesting our surrender. Surrender? Fleet Commander Zulmek's voice crackled over the communication channel. The Federation doesn't surrender to primitive species. But as Admiral Crixnall looked at his screens, he wondered if the humans were really primitive at all. The ships surrounding his fleet were sleek and advanced, clearly built with technology that rivaled or exceeded anything the Federation possessed. The 12 vessels his fleet had been attacking weren't primitive defenders. They were bait in a carefully planned trap. Captain Jae-Sung Park stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance as the massive human fleet completed its deployment around the trapped Federation forces. His ship had been one of the pathetic defenders that had absorbed the alien attack for 20 minutes. Now the aliens were learning the truth about humanity's real capabilities. Admiral Choi is requesting permission to address the Federation fleet, his communications officer reported. Put him through on all channels, Captain Park ordered. Fleet Admiral Dongmin Choi's voice filled the command bridges of every ship in the solar system, human and alien alike. His tone was calm, but carried the authority of someone who had spent decades preparing for this moment. Federation vessels, this is Fleet Admiral Choi of the United Earth Defense Force. You came to our system to destroy our world and enslave our people. You believed you faced 12 primitive ships. As you can see, you were mistaken. Admiral Crixnall felt his insectoid body trembling as he listened to the human admiral's words. Around him, his bridge crew looked at their displays in shock and fear. The tactical computers were still counting human ships as more appeared from hidden positions throughout the solar system. Your fleet is completely surrounded, Admiral Choi continued. Your weapons are insufficient to penetrate our defenses. Your engines cannot outrun our fastest ships. You have exactly one opportunity to survive this encounter. Surrender now, power down your weapons, and prepare to be boarded. This is impossible, Fleet Commander Zulmek screamed over the communication channel. Humans are a primitive species. You've barely left your homeworld. Admiral Choi's response was measured and cold. Commander, we've been watching the Federation for over 50 years. We know about every species you've conquered, every world you've destroyed, every civilization you've enslaved. We've been preparing for this day since our first contact with galactic civilization. On the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds, Admiral Crixnall made a desperate decision. If the humans had truly been watching the Federation for decades, they might know about the secret weapon systems his ship carried. But perhaps there was still something that could surprise them. All ships activate quantum destabilizers, he ordered his fleet. If we're going to die, we'll take these humans with us. The quantum destabilizer was the Federation's most closely guarded weapon technology. It could tear holes in space-time itself, creating destructive energy that could destroy entire fleets. Admiral Crixnall had never used it before, but desperate times called for desperate measures. The Federation ships began charging their secret weapons. Energy readings throughout the alien fleet spiked as exotic particles were channeled through quantum matrices. The space around the Federation vessels began to shimmer and distort, as reality itself was stressed by the tremendous forces being generated. But on the human ships, alarms weren't sounding in panic. Instead, tactical officers were calmly updating their displays and adjusting their positions. Federation fleet is charging quantum destabilizers, reported Commander Wu Jin Nam from the bridge of the massive dreadnought UES Retribution, just as predicted. Understood, Admiral Choi replied. All ships activate dimensional shields, prepare countermeasures. What the Federation didn't know was that humanity had encountered quantum destabilizer technology before. 15 years earlier, human intelligence operatives had recovered wreckage from a Federation ship that had been destroyed in a battle with space pirates. Among the debris had been fragments of a quantum destabilizer system. Human scientists had spent years studying the alien technology, not just learning how it worked, but developing defenses against it. The dimensional shields now protecting every human ship could deflect quantum distortions back at their sources. Admiral Crixnall watched his tactical display as the quantum destabilizers reached full charge. Fire, he commanded. The Federation ships unleashed their most powerful weapons. Space itself seemed to tear open as quantum energy lashed out toward the human fleet. The distortions in reality were so intense that they created visual effects like lightning made of pure mathematics. The quantum attack struck the human ships and simply bounced off. The dimensional shields didn't just block the Federation's secret weapons, they reflected the quantum energy back toward its sources. Admiral Crixnall watched in horror as his own quantum destabilizer beam came racing back toward his flagship. The destroyer of worlds, designed to be immune to its own weapons, was struck by quantum energy that had been amplified and focused by human technology. The massive alien battleship began to tear itself apart from the inside as quantum distortions ate through its hull. Secondary explosions ripped through weapon systems and engines. Within seconds, the pride of the Federation fleet was reduced to a drifting wreck. Impossible, Admiral Crixnall whispered as emergency systems failed throughout his ship. They turned our own weapons against us. Throughout the Federation fleet, similar scenes were playing out. Ships that had tried to use quantum destabilizers were being destroyed by their own reflected weapons. Within minutes, half of the alien fleet was either destroyed or crippled. Admiral Hai Wan Cho, commanding the first battle group of the human fleet, opened a communication channel to the surviving Federation ships. This is your final warning, she said. Power down all weapons and prepare for boarding, or we will destroy every remaining ship in your fleet. The surviving alien commanders looked at their tactical displays in despair. Their most powerful weapons had been turned against them. Their quantum destabilizers, the Federation's ultimate trump card, had been neutralized and reflected back at them. Whatever technology the humans possessed, it was clearly beyond anything the Federation had developed. One by one, the surviving Federation ships began powering down their weapons and shields. Admiral Crixnall, still alive in the command center of his crippled flagship, gave the order that no Federation commander had ever expected to give. All ships, stand down. We surrender to the human fleet. But Admiral Choi wasn't finished. As human boarding parties prepared to secure the surrendering alien vessels, he opened another communication channel, this one broadcasting on all Federation frequencies throughout the galaxy. This message is for every species in the Federation, Admiral Choi announced. Today, a Federation pacification fleet of 200 ships was defeated by the forces of Earth. The Federation told you that resistance was impossible, that their military power was unstoppable. They were wrong. In star systems throughout the Galaxy alien civilizations that had spent centuries under Federation rule listened in shock to the human admiral's words. The Federation rules through fear, Admiral Choi continued. They destroy worlds to send messages. They enslave species to maintain control. They claim to be your superiors, your natural rulers. But today, they learned that they can be beaten. Captain Sujin Lim, aboard the advanced destroyer UES Lightning, was monitoring Federation communication networks as Admiral Choi's broadcasts spread throughout the galaxy. She could see the effect it was having immediately. Admiral, we're detecting massive increases in communication traffic throughout Federation space, she reported. Encrypted messages between resistance groups, government communications on dozens of worlds, military channels going dark or switching to emergency frequencies. How are the Federation High Command responding? Admiral Choi asked. Panic, Captain Lim replied. They're sending urgent messages to all sector commanders demanding explanations. Some are ordering immediate military mobilizations. Others are calling for emergency council sessions. Admiral Choi smiled grimly. The psychological warfare aspect of humanity's plan was working perfectly. For centuries, the Federation had maintained control by convincing other species that resistance was hopeless. Now, in a single battle, humanity had shattered that illusion. But the real test was still to come. Admiral Choi opened a secure communication channel to Earth's government. President Han, this is Admiral Choi. The Federation fleet has been neutralized. Minimal casualties on our side. We're ready for Phase 2 of the operation. From the secure bunker beneath the Himalayas, President So Young Han's voice came through clearly. Excellent work, Admiral. Begin immediate deployment to the target systems. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity doesn't just defend, we liberate. Throughout the human fleet, new orders began flowing to ship commanders. This had never been just about defending Earth. Humani. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, Chancellor Vextar sat in the emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council on the capital world of Nexus Prime. The massive chamber, which had once been filled with the confident voices of alien rulers discussing their dominance over lesser species, was now filled with panic and desperate whispers. The holographic displays around the chamber showed a map of Federation space that would have been unthinkable just a few months earlier. Red markers indicated systems where Federation control had been lost. Yellow markers showed worlds where human liberation fleets were currently engaged in combat operations. Green markers represented the few remaining systems still under complete Federation authority. There was far too much red on the map. Report from Sector 7, announced Admiral Veltar, his scaly face showing the strain of continuous defeats. The human fleet has liberated the mining colonies of the Greshkai system. Federation forces retreated after minimal resistance. Chancellor, Vextar slammed his clawed fist on the council table. Minimal resistance? We had 3 battle groups protecting those colonies. The humans arrived with technology we still don't understand, Admiral Veltar replied. Their ships phase through our shields, their weapons grow stronger when we attack them, and their tactical coordination is perfect. Our commanders report that fighting humans is like fighting an enemy that knows every move before we make it. From across the chamber, Commander Theclon of the Arthropod Collective spoke up. It's not just their technology. They're doing something we never expected. What do you mean? Chancellor Vextar demanded. They're not enslaving the species they liberate. They're actually setting them free. The mining colonies in Greshkai, the humans didn't take them over. They gave the mines back to the original inhabitants and helped them establish their own government. The chamber erupted in confused chittering and growling from the assembled alien leaders. This made no sense to them. When you conquered a world, you took its resources. When you defeated an enemy, you enslaved their population. That was how galactic civilization had always worked. Why would they do that? Asked General Moxtar of the Crystalline Empire. Commander Theclon activated a holographic display showing intelligence reports from liberated worlds. According to our remaining spies, the humans are forming alliances. Every species they free becomes their partner, not their subject. They're building a coalition against us. Chancellor Vextar stared at the intelligence reports in disbelief. Coalition? These primitive humans think they can replace the Federation with some kind of... what? Democratic alliance? It appears so, Admiral Veltar confirmed. And it's working. Species that have hated Federation rule for centuries are eagerly joining the human coalition. They're providing ships, resources, and intelligence about our remaining bases. At that moment, alarms began sounding throughout the chamber. Emergency lights flashed as the capital world's defense systems activated. A communications officer ran into the chamber with a desperate expression. Chancellor, long-range sensors are detecting a massive fleet approaching Nexus Prime. Thousands of ships. Chancellor Vextar felt his blood turn cold. Federation reinforcements? No, sir. The fleet includes human vessels and ships from dozens of species we used to control. They're demanding to speak with the Federation Council. The main display screen activated, showing the space above Nexus Prime. The sight that greeted the Federation leaders was overwhelming. Ships of every size and design filled the orbital zone around their capital world. Human vessels with their sleek, advanced designs flew alongside the colorful ships of liberated alien species. At the center of the massive fleet was a ship unlike anything the Federation had ever seen. It was enormous, clearly built for diplomacy rather than war, with gleaming hull sections and what appeared to be meeting chambers visible through transparent sections of its structure. A communication signal reached the chamber, and President So Young-han appeared on the main screen. She stood in what was obviously the diplomatic center of the massive ship, surrounded by representatives from dozens of different alien species. Members of the Federation Council, President Han said, her voice calm and professional. I am President Han of the United Earth Government, speaking for the Coalition of Free Worlds. We're here to discuss the future of this galactic region. Chancellor. Vexter stood up, his full height meant to intimidate the human leader. You dare bring your fleet to our capital world? This is an act of war. No, Chancellor, President Han replied. This is an act of diplomacy. We're here to offer the Federation a choice. You can continue to rule through fear and oppression, in which case we will continue to liberate every world under your control. Or you can join us in building a new kind of galactic civilization based on cooperation and mutual respect. Impossible, General Moxtar shouted. The Federation has ruled this region for 1,000 years. We are the superior species. President Han's expression didn't change. General, in the past 3 months, your superior military forces have been defeated in 47 separate engagements. Your fleets retreat whenever they encounter our coalition forces. Your subject worlds celebrate when we arrive to liberate them. What exactly makes you superior? From beside President Han, another figure stepped into view. It was Captain Jiwoo Park, who had been humanity's first diplomatic representative to the Federation. She now wore the uniform of the Coalition's diplomatic corps. Chancellor Vextar, Captain Park said, when we first met, you offered humanity a subordinate role in your empire. You threatened to destroy Earth if we didn't become your mining slaves. Do you remember what you said about cooperation not being optional? Chancellor Vextar's memories of that arrogant meeting seemed like they had happened in another lifetime. Yes, I remember. Well, now we're offering you the same choice, Captain Park continued. Cooperation is not optional, but unlike the Federation, we're offering true cooperation. Equal partnership in a coalition where every species has a voice and every world governs itself. Admiral Chang Ho-yoon appeared on the screen beside President Han. His uniform bore the insignia of the Coalition Fleet Command. The Federation's military superiority is over. We've proven that in every battle. Your choice now is whether you want to be our partners or our prisoners. The Federation Council chamber fell silent. The alien leaders looked at their tactical displays, showing the massive coalition fleet surrounding their capital world. They looked at the intelligence reports showing Federation defeats throughout their territory. They looked at each other and saw fear in every face. What exactly are you proposing? Chancellor Vextar finally asked. President Han activated a holographic display that showed a new galactic map. Instead of Federation territory marked in imperial colors, the map showed dozens of different regions in various colors, each representing an independent species or world. The Coalition of Free Worlds, President Han explained. Every species governs itself. Every world controls its own resources. Disputes are settled through negotiation and democratic vote, not through military force. Species help each other voluntarily, not because they're forced to. And if we refuse? Commander Theclon asked. Admiral Yoon answered that question. Then we continue liberating Federation worlds until there are no more to liberate. Eventually, the Federation will consist of only those worlds that genuinely want to be part of an oppressive empire. We suspect that won't be very many. What the Federation leaders didn't say, but all of them understood, was that their empire had already effectively collapsed. Most of their military forces had been destroyed or had surrendered to the coalition. Their subject worlds were in open revolt. Their economy was collapsing as mining operations and slave colonies were liberated one by one. Captain Mi Young-seo, now serving as the coalition's director of reconstruction, appeared on the communication screen. For species that join the coalition, voluntarily, we offer full support in transitioning to self-governance, economic aid, military protection, technological exchange, and assistance in developing democratic institutions. You would help us rebuild our worlds? Asked a minor Federation official who had remained quiet until now. Of course, President Han replied. That's what partners do. We're not interested in revenge or domination. We want to build a galaxy where every species can thrive. 1 year later, Captain Jiwoo Park stood in the newly constructed Coalition Council chambers on the neutral world of New Harmony. The chamber was designed to accommodate representatives from over 60 different species, each with their own environmental needs and cultural preferences. The meeting she was attending would have been impossible under Federation rule. Representatives from dozens of worlds were debating trade agreements, scientific cooperation projects, and mutual defense treaties. Arguments were settled through discussion and vote, not through threats and military action. Through the large windows of the chamber, she could see the orbital space around New Harmony, filled with ships from dozens of different species. Human vessels flew alongside alien designs in joint patrol formations. Cargo ships carried goods and resources between worlds in voluntary trade arrangements. Research vessels staffed by multi-species crews explored the mysteries of the galaxy together. The vote on the new exploration